There's another update in this ongoing scandal with the Malaysian government. Rothschild Bank, this bank owned by the Rothschild family, now caught in a money laundering scandal related to the Malaysian government. This is a report just breaking a few hours ago, saying that authorities have accused Rothschild Bank and its subsidiary of not only failing to reveal the source of the assets of dubious customers, but also of expanding their business dealings with them. Switzerland's Financial Market Supervisory Authority, FINMA, has concluded an investigation into suspected money laundering operations involving Rothschild Bank and Malaysian State Investment Fund, 1MDB. The regulator concluded that Rothschild Bank was in, quote, serious breach of due diligence reporting and documentation requirements. The case involving the Rothschild Bank was one of 7 enforcement proceedings launched by FINMA against 1MDB amid suspicions of a serious breach of Swiss banking laws. This was from the actual original release. They pulled a quote which reads, "In the case of Rothschild, the FINMA accused the bank of not only establishing business dealings with dubious customers suspected of money laundering activities, but," quote, pulled from the original release, said considerably expanding also their business dealings with them and reporting suspicions, quote, only after a substantial delay, thereby breaching the bank's reporting requirements. Rothschild Bank was also said to have failed to adequately document high-risk transactions. The regulator, they say, has appointed an audit agent to oversee an internal overhaul of the bank's business practices. A spokesperson for Rothschild told the news agency that the bank regretted the breaches. They've apologized and said that it was constantly strengthening its procedures to identify and combat the increasingly sophisticated financial crime it faced in the industry. They note that 1MDB became the center of a financial scandal involving billions of dollars in 2011 after authorities started an investigation into alleged illegal practices. The FBI joined the case in 2015. Investigators as well from Hong Kong, Singapore, Luxembourg, United Arab Emirates, Australia involved. Vast sums of money siphoned from Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund into the hands of corrupt officials. The scandal led to the arrest of former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak earlier this year. Najib was charged with criminal breach of trust and abuse of funds in connection with the affair. Switzerland's Attorney General is engaged in a criminal probe of 2 other Swiss banks, as well as 6 individuals. Several other banks have been reprimanded. They noted that all implicated banks have put in place measures to fix what went wrong, or that's what they're claiming at least. FINMA said that it will appoint an auditor to review those measures that the bank is claiming that they're now putting in place after they've apologized. The Swiss criminal cases linked to 1MDB could still be in the pipeline. So more criminal cases linked to the same organization. The Prime Minister of Malaysia, this has been an ongoing case. It was finally announced that he is officially being charged. Specific corruption charges laid against Najib Razak, $3.4 billion in fraud being alleged. Just brief recap from this article. I say Malaysia's former Prime Minister Najib Razak has been charged in court on 4 counts of corruption, a stunning fall from grace for the leader who was accused of extensive misappropriation of a state fund which he founded. Mr. Najib pleaded not guilty to all accounts. Each of these counts carries a potential prison sentence of up to 20 years for each count. So it's a serious prison sentence the former prime minister is facing. This was after he's accused of abusing the position of prime minister for self-gratification. He could also be handed a fine for 40 million. Charges come amid a lengthy and ongoing criminal probe and relate to a suspicious transaction involving SRC International, a former unit of One Malaysia Development Berhad, and Mr. Najib's personal account. So they recap this scandal. It's been going on for a long time now. So now the Rothschild Bank caught up in this potentially as well. It's kind of a convoluted story. There's links potentially back to the US and people in the entertainment industry. One article talking about Malaysian fund, 1MDB, possibly linked to a specific White House visit with they named one businessman, Frank White Jr. Article says Malaysia's government fund scandal, one of the world's biggest alleged white-collar crimes, has now been connected to a Hollywood studio, high-end U.S. real estate, and now a visit to the White House. Federal investigators looking into whether money improperly obtained from the Malaysian fund was paid to a businessman who later arranged an Oval Office visit for relatives of the Malaysian Prime Minister. So this would have been Barack Obama. According to people familiar with the probe, they named the businessman Frank White Jr., an entrepreneur who helped start an investment firm along with partners, including a rap star. A second article, they mention him. Mr. White has also raised funds for President Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Investigators believe about $10 million allegedly embezzled from this organization, One Malaysia Development, known as 1MDB, flowed indirectly to Mr. White in a business deal, said people familiar with the probe. Additionally, the group paid $69 million to buy Disable Unit out of a deal they had agreed on to build solar power plants, the firm said last year. The investigation of the payments is part of this wider inquiry into the fund that Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak set in 2009 to spur development. Investigators in several countries believe up to $6 billion was improperly diverted from the fund. Malaysia's Attorney General cleared Mr. Najib of wrongdoing. This was back in 2016, so the former prime minister is in trouble for this. It was unclear back in 2016 if he would actually be charged. That's what's going on in Malaysia. Again, it is kind of a convoluted story. So they did donate to the Clintons and Obama. Possibly some of these funds through intermediaries moved from the Malaysian government to Clinton and Obama. However, Najib Razak is also reportedly a friend of President Trump as well. And if you look at some of the alternative media sources, there are some arguments. This is one website. They've done several long articles on this. I'm not sure if I entirely agree with their interpretation, but I will mention it just as an alternative viewpoint, that some people think George Soros could be involved, and George Soros might have wanted to actually get rid of Najib Razak. According to this theory, similar to sort of the Arab Spring that happened several years ago, helped spark off, I guess, kind of this whole refugee crisis. Some people think that that was intentionally set up by George Soros and others. The Arab Spring, as they described it back during Obama's term, they kind of spun it in the media like it would be a positive thing. And then obviously it turned into kind of a vacuum of chaos in a lot of these countries. It just destabilized them, worsened the migrant crisis, all kind of side effects that you think that George Soros might want. There was a theory that Najib Razak, that he had been, I guess, set up. There is a lot of evidence that the former Malaysian government, there was corruption going on. So again, arguments from both sides. I didn't want to completely discredit the theory, though, that George Soros could have had a hand in this. I guess even in that case, with the new news, with this most recent news that the Rothschild Bank is involved as well, perhaps they might have been involved in setting up the former government, or they were involved in actual criminal business dealings working with the former government. It's unclear. They had some role, however, not really saying if they are going to be in any sort of trouble. The Rothschild Bank, what kind of punishment they might face. Again, Rothschild Bank has apologized and said that they're putting in more measures to make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen. But there's a lot of different actors involved, different players involved in this scandal. And it will be interesting, I guess, to see what happens to the former prime minister, what happens with those charges against him, and what other connections are there. We have the Rothschilds, Obama's involved here, potentially George Soros working on one side or another. Let me know what you think about all this. It's been a scandal ongoing for a long time. We'll get new info, I'm sure. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Reminder again, I'm on patreon.com/realityreader. Just letting everybody know again, patreon.com /reality reader. Thank you everybody that has donated over there. A few dollars even makes a huge difference, gives me some more time to put back on the channel. I have a link for that in the description. I'll add some links to some of the articles that we looked at here as well. Tell me what you think. I will follow up soon.